about it. So this is one of the most important things about education and changing the stigma.
Next is Dr. Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell how you got involved with the opioid, with prescribing cannabis instead of opioids.
Hi everybody, my name is George Tischler. I'm a physician. I actually came to this from a very traditional place. I went to Harvard Medical School and I trained in internal medicine at the Great Women's Hospital. And spent 20 odd years doing emergency medicine, the last 15 or so for the VA. And one of the things that came out of my time at the VA was seeing so many veterans who were harmed by various prescriptions, as well as primarily alcohol. But this is one of the things that led me to realize that I'd never seen it by...
I hadn't seen anybody... All right, forget it. So I had never seen anybody that was harmed by cannabis, and that made me start to think, well, you know, maybe we should be looking at this as a medicine. This sort of coincided with it becoming medically available, and can you hear me? Am I being loud enough? Not at all.
All right, well, we'll try this then. All right. Check. All right, so I was talking about my time with the VA and the ways in which that influenced my understanding of the lack of harms for cannabis, and that led me to start thinking about benefits. And so in my practice, I spend a fair amount of time taking care of patients who present with pain and who are on high doses of opioids. Many of those patients come to me and they say, Doc, I want to get off all of this stuff. And I must say that in general, my point of view has been, let's not focus on getting off. Because getting off, if you think about it in this context, is really a negative, right? It's like, I don't want these things, and it puts a lot of pressure on the system, right? I'm a bad person, I can't stop taking this opiate because my back hurts. So I tend to focus us on how can we make you feel better? How can we take care of this pain? How can we increase your quality of life by using cannabis? And ultimately, by doing that and by focusing on cannabis first, generally speaking, been very successful at getting people either off or at least very far down in terms of the doses of opiates that they take. And it's a low pressure thing, it's a positive thing, and that's been very successful.
Thank you very much. And to continue with our introductions, we have Dan Bolton. Please tell us how you got involved with medical activism.
So I begrudgingly in high school had a girlfriend introduce me to marijuana. I did it with her to try to prove that I was open-minded when I was being accused otherwise, because I had a very Nancy Reaganish point of view of marijuana at the time. And I did it, and I said, oh wait, this is not that bad at all. And then through college, I connected with friends and did a lot of marijuana in college, and I really enjoyed it, and I had excellent grades. And then after college, like most people, I just stopped using it for a good decade or more. Had a friend move, a college friend move from California here and said, hey, let's find some weed. And I said, I have no idea where to even begin to look for it. Anyway, long story short, found some, and I've been smoking it for the past few years, and it's been about 2 or 3 years I started to put the pieces together that medically it was very helpful. I grew up for many years with post-traumatic stress disorder, struggled for a long time with it, especially with sleep, would wake up in the middle of the night, night terrors every night, and have trouble sleeping. It got to the point where I tried every supplement, every sleep hygiene technique that I could, was exercising 3 times a day just to try to exhaust myself so I would sleep to the point I was getting injuries, and I'm like, I just can't sustain this. And I got connected with some strain at one point that started helping me sleep, and I said, wow, this is really amazing, that this can really truly be a medicine. But I was still scared to do it every day because I thought, oh, I will be a loser if I smoke marijuana every day. But I decided to put that to the test because I was sleeping so well and been using it every day and sleeping great, and I feel so much more functional. And I decided I wanted to become active and got connected with MassCan a little over a year ago. I think it was the Marijuana Ball, 2016. And connected with a lot of great people and just saw a lot of room for education, and that's how I became connected in activism. Also, I worked for the Home for Little Wanderers for 11 years, working with kids in Dorchester. Witnessed a lot of a lot of kids unfortunately becoming imprisoned because of their use or involvement with marijuana. And then not so much with the kids in Cambridge and Somerville, who I also worked with, so to see that disparity also made me want to come out and be active and educate people about, well, there's a lot of disparity in terms of how people are treated. And I also wanted to be an advocate on that level in addition to the medical component and helping people with post-traumatic stress get access and learn how cannabis can help them.
Thank you very much. Very fun. And Marilyn McNabb, and I was just over at your, got that concept that I hope you continue to I love it. Okay, carry away.
Thank you, Catherine. My name is Dr. Marion McNabb, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Cannabis Community Care and Research Network, or CPRN. So I'm a public health researcher by training, and what we're most interested in doing is advancing the science related to cannabis from a variety of perspectives, from the medical perspective, but also social justice, economic impact, and try and raise the bar of best practices and published literature in the field. So we're working to create a virtual cannabis center of excellence, a community-led research agenda that focuses more on collaboration and bringing together different industries, breaking down the silos, increasing ways that we can advance medical science and data science in the cannabis industry. So we're about a year old, startup company, a little over a year, and grateful to be here, and thanks for the invitation to be a part of this panel. Oh, yes. And we do, CPRN has an event series that we've launched to bring together academic, clinical, and cannabis industry and consumers and patients. And so we are on our third event this month. Will be next Thursday. Dr. Tischler's an expert speaker on it. It will be at GTech Labs, and we'll have more information about it at the end of this event. But the idea is to have really constructive conversations about how we can raise awareness and connections at different academic institutions in Massachusetts and beyond, and increase the collaborations between academia, clinical communities, and cannabis.
I'd like to continue talking about how, I can see this panel being, the start of a really wonderful collaboration. So, what else can we do? Could you give me, talk about the endocannabinoid system and how it can regulate as a metasystem. So, do you want to carry it away, Dr. Uma?
So a little bit of background about myself. I'm a family physician. I'm also an occupational environmental medicine physician specialized in heavy metals. And I think I'm one of the few, I think there's 45 of us that are specialized through the American Academy of Cannabinoid Medicine. And just recently I'm also a medical review officer. So with all of this knowledge, I never ever learned about the endocannabinoid system. I describe the endocannabinoid system in one word: life. It's a neural system in our body. We all have it. It's 600 million years old. It has evolved from the sea squirt to what we have in humans today. We've known about this system for many, many years. As it has evolved, in 1964, Dr. Raphael Mechoulam first started to learn about cannabis and identified the three specific cannabinoids that we talk about more often: THC, which was referred to as more of a psychoactive. I like to use the word intoxicating. CBD as non-intoxicating. And CBNs have about 1/10 of the psychoactive property. But it wasn't until 1988 that we realized that we had receptors. CB1 was discovered, which is primarily the brain. CB2, primarily the immune system. Again, 1988. But it wasn't until 1992 that we identified that our body made its own endocannabinoids. And what's also amazing is the first endocannabinoid that was identified is called anandamide. And anandamide mimics THC, and this is why it works so beautifully in our body. So there's synthetic cannabinoids. Very common one that's known is marinol, and it's been around since 1985. And then our body produces endocannabinoids, and we have phytocannabinoids. But all three of these can work with the receptors to bring about balance. And I like the 5 words that Dr. Damasio uses to explain the endocannabinoid system. He says that the endocannabinoid system is meant for us to relax, eat, sleep, forget, and protect life. And in animal studies, when they blocked this, animals did not suffer. And if they didn't suffer, they died. And that's why I call the endocannabinoid system, in one word, life. Well, that's a very good question. So in my practice, I ask my patients 3 questions. Are you peeing, are you pooping, and are you sexually active? Those are the 3 questions I ask my patients. The first 2 better be yes. And we say we'll work on the 3rd one. So yes, cannabis is a very important part. And I have not written an opioid in over 8 years. Proud of it. And thank you. And I've been calling cannabis the exit drug for over 9 years, and I've said cannabis is not an entrance drug, it's an exit drug from pharmaceuticals, narcotics, alcohol, and I'm going to add nicotine to it too.
In addition to peeing, pooping, and eating, I would might add sleep in there. I think sleep and relaxation. Yeah, I mean, I think people who have post-traumatic stress disorder have a really hard time relaxing. Yeah, they're hyper-vigilant. They're always worried something's going to happen, or being prepared something's going to happen. Processing negative thoughts consciously or even subconsciously. So that ability to attain homeostasis for people with post-traumatic stress is just not there. So many of my clients who come to see me who have post-traumatic stress have trouble sleeping. And so much of the work of psychotherapy and getting good outcomes is helping them sleep again. Because if patients can start sleeping again, then they can much better manage the rest of their symptoms the rest of the day.
Sleep is so important, folks. I cannot say this enough. People that have lack of sleep can even die. And alcohol levels, people that have been under the intoxication of alcohol and lack of sleep deprivation, it's equated to being even worse. And this is truly what you say is about cannabis. There's also enough studies now that Dr. Ethan Russo has done, and more to come, about a deficiency. And when people are deficient in their endocannabinoids, the illnesses that we're seeing, fibromyalgia, IBS, migraines, are all related to an imbalance. And this is where I see the science going, is that what I'm looking to see is how patients that can have a genetics and what is predisposing them to possibly a dysfunction in their endocannabinoid system.
Dr. McNabb, Did you want to talk about research?
Sure. It's my favorite topic. I wouldn't. I think there's a lot of room for research in general in cannabis. I think historically, because of the federal regulations and because of the fear of losing funding from an academic institution, there's been a real lack of science in the United States over the last few decades. would say that internationally they're far outpacing the United States in terms of advancing science. I think there are really good examples of centers of excellence in the United States and work that Dr. Ringo's doing and others are doing to advance cannabis research. So I think there's a real opportunity now in Massachusetts. They've just passed the ability to have a research license as one of the adult use license categories. So it finally allows an academic or a clinical provider, for-profit or non-for-profit, to be able to really easily, be able to actually conduct a research study of cannabis and human populations in Massachusetts. It's pretty remarkable.
Now, how can patients get involved with that?
We have a monthly patient caregiver support group we've been doing for about 4 years now, and we open it up and it's open, we post it on our website. Our website is totalhealthcarethc.com, and we hold it at the VFW. Omar, do you know when the next one is? So we'll put it on our website, and we open this up to able to change information, exchange, and destigmatize, and we call it specifically a patient caregiver support group meeting, because by law, doctors are not allowed to tell our patients how to use cannabis, where to get it. So this becomes a venue for me to open it up, and then the patients come in, and then we have caregivers, which has two terminologies: patients who's taking care of them, or also caregivers that have medicine that are able to come, and that's how we open it up to the public as well.
It's tricky. I like the idea of patients getting involved, it becoming active, but I think it's a personal choice. I mean, I think there are still a lot of risks involved in putting your name out there, although the Massachusetts Supreme Court did say it's illegal to fire somebody from their job if they have a medical marijuana card and are using marijuana in their own time outside of work. But that being said, there are a lot of employers who still will find other justification to try to drive somebody out of their business because they don't like, or are stuck on stereotypes about cannabis. So I think helping patients tell their stories maybe in ways that are anonymous through people who have decided they want to put themselves out there or establish themselves as a cannabis-related business or a health practice. So I think it can be a slippery slope, and I think I want to encourage patients to be very conscious about what they decide to share and be very informed about what's involved with that. Are you prepared for any sort of the backlash that might come from that? We're dealing with a federal government who still wants to get access to patient lists in the states who have medical marijuana programs for who knows what. We don't know. So I think there are still risks out there. And I think it's also very important for us as practitioners to protect the privacy of our patients and really make sure, if they want to be active, that's their personal choice and they're making it very consciously and with information.
You bring up the point about personal protected information. Actually, cannabis is not protected for patients at all because it is in Schedule 1. And there's two types of drug testing. There's federal and non-federal. And regardless of the employers, it's up to the employers not to test. But if you work for a federal site and you have a federal job, you are guided under those guidelines and you are screwed. There is no allowable positive for THC from a medical patient. That's just something that's federally still illegal.
And Dr. Tischler, you could talk about the VA.
I'm not sure there's much to say. Everything Uma said was exactly accurate, which is to say that the federal government maintains the right to randomly drug test any employee, and if you test positive, then there's an administrative procedure. Thankfully, it's not in the termination, the counseling, and depending upon the outcome of that, may end up on sort of an administrative reassignment, but ultimately this is moving towards your dismissal. Unless, of course, you rehabilitate yourself, which as a patient, that's not really quite the right idea, is it? The best idea is, at least if you're a federal employee, is keep this on the DL and cross your fingers that you don't get tested, and perhaps stockpile some urine in your freezer from a time in which you are not using, or some such other thing like that. Probably not my best advice.
But we love it nonetheless. Now I was starting to, this herb is so impressive that I backed into studying about other herbs, mainly because I was saying, oh, my grow is so stinky and I have all these people coming over, I'm supposed to be respectful right here, what am I going to do? So they said, grow, some really smelly herbs outside, like rosemary and sage and stuff, and they're awesome too. So it occurred to me we had synthesis, antithesis. We're going to try maybe to get to synthesis, antithesis. Okay, thesis was when all medicine was herbal. Okay, and now we're into the antithesis where everything is pharma. And if we can get to a synthesis where we have a holistic with herbs and minimal pharma, because I don't know if that's biocompatible. Now, what do you say about biocompatibility in other herbs? Medicine.
I think cannabis plays pretty well in the sandbox. It certainly, as we've talked about, has led to the ability to decrease some of the medications that people take, but there are many other medications that people need to take, and cannabis works well as an adjunct to that. There are some cases where there are some relative contraindications, particularly to CBD more so than whole plant cannabis. But again, these are great medicines to use together, and they often work very well together. For example, SSRIs, which some people need for their depression, work really well, but they also come with side effects. People talk about going like a zombie. Adding cannabis as an addition can really alleviate some of those side effects from the SSRIs. So yeah, I think that this just requires thought and care.
The other thing that we're able to see is that actually making people aware of hydration. I'm a big pusher. People have heard me say hydrate before you medicate. Dr. says it because honestly, this is about basics. People don't drink enough fluids and people are not pooping enough because they're not getting enough fiber, or the medications that they're taking are not allowing them to poop. Many people are on oxys or all these pain meds, these opioids that cause constipation. And they're afraid, and then they're on blood pressure medicines that cause them to pee too much. So they're afraid to drink. So I go back to the basics of some herbs, of chamomile. I tell people, do chamomile tea. It's a very natural anti-anxiolytic. Lemongrass, holy basil. These are all natural herbs that have been around. I'm from India, so we incorporated turmeric, ginger, these basic things that we can all get access to and they're legal. And this is what's going to happen is people are going to start to say, what else can I go to? Not a synthetic pill. And that's all these prescription meds are. And I've been able to even get patients off of meds that have been on meds for over 30, 40 years. I have a guy that lost 110 pounds and using only cannabis and was on God knows how many pills. Completely off of everything.
I just wanted to speak to the interaction between certain drugs, like maybe Dr. Tischler, you could speak to this further. I was reading a study that said adding cannabis as a supplement with opioid prescription, not that, and I think you can treat pain without opioids, and I think that is a great goal. But I also read a study that said it can increase the analgesic effect of the opiate with reduced amount of prescriptions. So you can get a lower dosage and reduce the risk of someone being addicted.
Yeah.
So the best numbers on that look like you would need roughly only 20% of the amount of opioid if you add cannabis. And the compelling part of that for me is that the risk from of both addiction as well as overdose from opiates is linear, meaning for every milligram more you take, the risk increases. So the point being is that every milligram less you take, the risk decreases. So if we can knock off 80% of somebody's need for opioid, even if we're not taking it down to zero, we've made a huge difference in terms of their risk, both addiction and overdose. So yeah, that's a huge piece of it.
I think definitely Dr. Tischler and Dr. Rumo would know a lot more of the clinical medicine side of it. I look at it from a population perspective, from a public health perspective, and I'm thinking about not only the importance of reducing the intake, but at all the other interventions that are associated with substance abuse and all the other factors that are associated with addiction, and how do you ensure that somebody in that substance abuse program really isn't tested for THC, and that those people are educated and guidelines are changed at a structural level, so that it facilitate, clinicians facilitate, sort of rapid introduction of these types of interventions and research actually in practice. So.
Many years ago, my wife, who's also a doc, was talking to me about one of the policies in the clinic she runs at Brigham, or ran at the time. And what was really interesting to me is that they were drug testing their patients for opioids, not to see if they were abusing the opioids, but because they wanted to make sure that the patients were taking the opioids that were prescribed rather than reselling them. And I was like, oh my God, that just kind of blew my mind. Like, we have to worry about that? But apparently we do. I think it'd be kind of cool someday when we're testing patients for THC to make sure they're taking their cannabis, right? So that we don't have to worry quite so much about the opioids creeping back into their lives. Anyhow.
As a matter of fact, I was saying the DPH should be in the streets throwing bud at the DPH should be in the streets throwing bud at passersby.
It's actually interesting. We're going to be doing a study that actually is showing that this is one of the things as a medical review officer that I'm seeing is that people that test positive for THC are negative for opioids, meaning they don't want their opioids, doc. So just say no to your doctors is my whole message now. Just say no to your doctors, because every time when you tell them that you're using cannabis, they want to throw another opioid prescription at you. And this is going to clearly come out. We know that when we have a medical marijuana program with the dispensaries available, in 2 years, 25% reduction, 33% in 3 or more years. So it's not just having the program available, you must have the dispensaries available to have the access as well.
I was going to tell a funny story. So I go into surgery, right? I have my bunions done. So you're supposed to tell your anesthesiologist, if you're taking any cannabis. So I would say, yes, I do RSO, sublingually, morning and night. And I smoke, upon social occasions. So he said, and how social are we? I said, very. And when I was doing my cataract, so the surgical, I'm on my gurney, and the surgical team was in front of me introducing themselves, which I thought was quite nice. And I said, oh, you're medical, let me explain it as endocannabinoids, and what cannabis? Oh, okay. And so I explained it to them, they said, and that anesthesiologist said, oh, everybody knows weed calms you down. So I said, I'm in good hands, okay, God. And then so I did a pre-op exam, and I said I was on, okay, you're healthier than a horse, what meds are you on? And I said, cannabis. I can't write that down. I said, you have to. This is a data point. You just declared me, healthier than a horse, and I just said my, meds are cannabis. Talking about a future research source, tell me where research is going to go.
Yeah, I think there can be really, really exciting things. I think, given the fact that there's a research license here and there's so many universities and experts here and clinical providers, this is the medical tourism site of the world. The research could go, very far in multiple directions. I think, personally at CPRN, we are most interested in opioid epidemic. Massachusetts is 250% higher rates of overdoses and hospitalizations than other states in the United States. I think from a variety of angles, I think we can actually put those findings into practice, like I said, by changing particular guidelines or really putting political pressure on trying to use funding and make funding available for this. I think there's a lot of really life science